Today, in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more.
But when you are walking in there with an already pre-approved idea of what you think is going to happen and what you think your opinion is going to be, it is hard to be able to say that that person is going to be swayed and can be fair and impartial.
The courtroom is ablaze with scandal, and the air is thick with whispers of betrayal and corruption. Sean Diddy Combs, the once untouchable king of hip-hop, now finds himself at the center of a trial so shocking it's shaking the very foundation of the entertainment industry. The charges against him are not just serious. They are explosive: racketeering, forced labor, and allegations of a secretive and sinister world of exploitation. But as if the charges themselves weren't enough, the courtroom drama has taken a turn no one could have predicted. A key witness, dubbed Victim 3, has vanished, leaving federal prosecutors scrambling and conspiracy theories swirling.
Frame is important because this happened in hotels, in places that have surveillance, that there's records that could be consistent with his testimony about when he alleges that these parties took place. He probably has his own information about who attended the events. When you're somebody like Sean Combs and you're such a celebrity and you're engaged in this type of behavior, people around you are memorializing it on their own.
The stakes couldn't be higher. This is not just a trial. It's a reckoning for a man who built an empire on charm, charisma, and power. Beneath the glitz and glamour lies a dark underbelly, exposed by testimonies that have left the public gasping. Kathy Ventura, Diddy's ex-partner and the first accuser to step into the spotlight, delivered testimony that is as heartbreaking as it is damning. She described years of manipulation and coercion, painting a picture of a man who allegedly used everything at his disposal: money, influence, even explicit videos, to control and humiliate her. It is horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone. While her testimony alone would be enough to dominate headlines, it's the details about freak-offs, decadent, substance-fueled events allegedly orchestrated by Diddy, that have set the media ablaze. And then there's Victim 3, the missing puzzle piece who could change everything. This individual, reportedly central to the prosecution's case, was expected to deliver explosive testimony establishing a chilling pattern of abuse spanning decades. According to courtroom insiders, her testimony was set to reveal how Diddy allegedly exploited and manipulated those in his orbit using fear and power. But with her sudden disappearance, the prosecution is left reeling. Where is she? Why hasn't even her attorney been reachable? And perhaps most intriguingly, did someone orchestrate this disappearance to protect Diddy?
He thought that he was above the law, so I can only, think that, he was sloppy in the way that he did these crimes, that there's probably a trail of evidence, not only involving him, but everybody in his circle that he would, delegate these responsibilities to. And those people are when they're...
Theories abound. Some point to Diddy's vast resources, hinting at possible witness tampering or intimidation. After all, he's been accused of using his influence to silence critics and control his narrative for years. Others suggest that the missing witness simply became too scared to face the public eye, especially under the intense spotlight of such a high-profile trial. But there's another, darker layer to this mystery. Could there be forces larger than Diddy at work, determined to ensure the full truth never comes to light? Victim 3's disappearance is no coincidence. An unnamed courtroom insider reportedly confided that she was ready to blow the case wide open. And now, just like that, she's gone. It doesn't add up. If that weren't enough to raise eyebrows, whispers of a potential cover-up have begun to circulate. Anonymous sources close to the case have hinted at secret meetings, pressure from influential figures, and even undisclosed evidence that could exonerate Diddy or bury him for good. Meanwhile, Diddy's defense team is wasting no time exploiting the development. They've been quick to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, arguing that the absence of their so-called star witness undermines the credibility of the entire trial. These are allegations, not facts, Diddy's attorney Tenny Garagos stated boldly in court. When the government can't even produce their key witness, what does that tell you? But is this confidence a calculated legal strategy, or a smokescreen to distract from the gravity of the charges.
But it will be up to the jury. And there's really another piece of this case, and that's the racketeering case. And they don't really talk about that. Diddy's attorneys, Sean Combs' attorneys, they stay away from the racketeering part of this. They are focused solely on the trafficking part of this case.
Let's not forget the emotional toll this trial is taking on those closest to Diddy. His two sons, who have shown unwavering support for their father, have become a focal point of public fascination. How do they reconcile the man they know and love with the horrifying allegations being laid bare in court? Their presence in the courtroom, sitting stoically behind their father, is a stark reminder of the human cost of this legal battle. Are they victims of their father's alleged crimes, complicit participants, or simply caught in a storm they cannot escape? And then there's the public. The trial has become a cultural moment, a spectacle dividing fans and critics alike. On one hand, Diddy's supporters argue that this is a witch hunt, an attempt to tear down a successful black man who dared to rise to the top of an industry rife with exploitation. On the other, his accusers, each with their own harrowing stories, paint a picture of a man who used his power to prey on the vulnerable. The question on everyone's lips: who is the real Diddy?
Because we now know who all the prosecutors will be on Diddy's trial. They're all women. They have assembled a team of female prosecutors, and that is definitely not by accident.
As the trial unfolds, the tension is palpable. Each day brings new revelations, new twists, and new questions that demand answers. But as we wait for the next bombshell, one thing is certain: this story will not go quietly. The stakes are too high, the allegations too severe, and the implications too far-reaching. Will justice be served, or will this trial end as yet another chapter in the long history of the powerful escaping accountability? Stay tuned. This is a drama that's only just begun.
That he has, with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case you would have others charged, it was a statute designed to get mob bosses, trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems.
As the courtroom drama continues to unfold, the human cost of the trial becomes increasingly impossible to ignore. Sean Diddy Combs, once the untouchable mogul of the music and entertainment world, now stands accused of horrifying crimes that span decades. But while the legal battle rages on, it's not just Diddy's reputation on the line. His family, his empire, and even the wider entertainment industry are feeling the shockwaves of this unprecedented case. The trial has become a spectacle, a chilling reminder that power and influence can conceal dark secrets for far too long. And the deeper we dig, the more haunting the details become.
You know, I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence, and especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be 4.
Let's start with the facts that have already come to light. Federal prosecutors have laid out a damning case, alleging that Diddy orchestrated a criminal enterprise over the course of 2 decades. This enterprise, they claim, was designed to exploit, manipulate, and silence his victims. Among the most shocking revelations is the testimony from his ex-partner, Cassandra "Cassie" Ventura, who has described years of coercion and abuse. Cassie's lawsuit, settled last year for an undisclosed sum, was just the beginning of a deluge of accusations. She spoke of being forced into humiliating and degrading situations, including the now infamous freak-offs, elaborate gatherings where women were allegedly manipulated into performing intimate acts under threat of retaliation. It's not just her words that paint this picture. Prosecutors have presented physical evidence, including recordings, confiscated footage, and digital communications that they say corroborate these claims. The allegations against Diddy are not confined to his relationship with Cassie. Several other lawsuits paint a grim picture of a man allegedly accustomed to using his power and influence to dominate and silence those around him. One particularly shocking lawsuit came from a former employee, referred to in court documents as Victim 4, who accused Diddy of forcing her into years of unpaid labor under the guise of professional opportunity. She claimed she was subjected to verbal abuse, relentless pressure, and impossible demands, all while being threatened with career ruin if she ever left or spoke out. The lawsuit described her treatment as psychological warfare, designed to break her spirit and ensure her silence.
Centerpiece of a lot of what happened during direct testimony were freak-offs. And what the prosecution tried to show was that he forced and or coerced her into doing these freak-offs. And we've talked about this earlier this week, that at least my opinion is that in a lot of these, the prosecution just didn't close the loop. It was something she felt.
Another lawsuit from 2023, filed by a woman identified only as Jane Doe, accused Diddy of orchestrating a terrifying incident in 2003 when she was just 17 years old. According to the complaint, she was invited to a private gathering, only to find herself transported to New York on a private jet, where she was reportedly coerced into participating in what the lawsuit described as an orchestrated performance. The details are graphic and deeply disturbing, and her legal team argues that this was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of exploitation spanning years. This particular case has drawn comparisons to other high-profile scandals in the entertainment industry, with some experts suggesting it could finally force the industry to confront its long-standing issues with power abuse. Diddy's history of legal troubles and allegations of misconduct stretches back decades. In 1999, he was arrested on weapons charges following a nightclub incident, though he was later acquitted. In 2001, he faced a civil suit from a talent manager who accused him of assault and battery during a heated argument. While these earlier cases did not involve the same level of allegations as the current trial, they reveal a consistent theme: aggression, intimidation, and a willingness to use power to maintain control. Critics argue that these incidents, while dismissed or settled, were early warnings that went unheeded.
So Diddy, after the Cassie lawsuit, gets hit with a bunch of lawsuits, and then ultimately the raids, and then this criminal case.
Perhaps most chilling are the accounts from individuals who claim they were drawn into Diddy's orbit, only to experience what they describe as a culture of secrecy and fear. A former videographer, once employed by Diddy to document behind-the-scenes footage of his events, filed a lawsuit earlier this year alleging that he witnessed disturbing behavior.
The feds, Al Capone style, have not charged everything under the sun. They've charged 3 main charges: racketeering, trafficking, and the transport of a prostitute. And I'll tell you, I don't know about the racketeering charge. It's pretty sweeping, and I'll tell you what the general
During his time working for the mogul, the videographer claimed he was pressured to destroy footage that depicted questionable activities and was later threatened when he refused to remain silent. These claims align with the prosecution's assertion that Diddy relied on a network of enablers to shield his actions from public scrutiny. The prosecution has also highlighted an incident involving another accuser, who alleged that Diddy once threatened her life during an argument, reportedly dangling her over a balcony in a chilling act of intimidation. This moment, described in court filings, has become emblematic of the power dynamics that allegedly defined Diddy's relationships. It's said to have been a turning point for this witness, who later came forward to share her story despite fears of retaliation. Legal analysts believe that moments like these, if proven true, could significantly impact how the jury views Diddy's character and pattern of behavior.
They saw evidence in the case. They immediately honed in on racketeering, and they started saying, why is this racketeering with one guy? And they're charging this one guy. They had a real problem with that. They did not have a problem with the Mann Act. They found him guilty on the Mann Act, and they hung 6 to 6 on racketeering.
And adding to the complexity of the case is the public's mixed reaction to these revelations. While some have expressed shock and outrage, others argue that the entertainment industry has always operated in morally gray areas, where power imbalances are the norm. Yet, as more individuals come forward, it becomes increasingly difficult to dismiss these allegations as isolated incidents or misunderstandings. The growing body of evidence suggests a deeply entrenched system of control, one that relied on Diddy's immense wealth and influence to silence those who dare to challenge him. Many believe this trial could be a watershed moment, not just for the music industry, but for all industries plagued by similar abuses of power. The allegations don't stop with Cassie. The prosecution's case also includes testimony from other women, some of whom are testifying under pseudonyms to protect their privacy. They've described a chillingly similar pattern: promises of career opportunities used as bait, followed by intimidation, blackmail, and, at times, physical violence. One particularly harrowing account involved a witness who detailed how she was isolated from her friends and family, made to feel dependent on Diddy's approval, only to be discarded once she was no longer useful. The prosecution has also revealed text messages and emails that they argue show Diddy's attempts to silence these women, including non-disclosure agreements and financial settlements meant to buy their silence.
Let's talk about the filth that's starting to come out in the early days of the Diddy trial. This, of course, is P. Diddy. Surprise, surprise, he's a creep. Surprise, surprise, he's done horrible things.
And then there's the matter of the missing key witness, referred to in court documents as Victim 3. Her sudden disappearance is more than just a logistical challenge for the prosecution. It's a game-changing development that has fueled rampant speculation. Prosecutors have admitted they are unable to locate her or her attorney, despite repeated attempts. Victim 3 was reportedly prepared to share explosive testimony, details that would have linked Diddy to a pattern of abuse spanning multiple states and victims. Some insiders have whispered about possible intimidation tactics, while others suggest she may have simply been overwhelmed by the prospect of facing such a powerful figure. Either way, her absence has created a glaring hole in the prosecution's case, one that Diddy's legal team is exploiting to full effect. The defense has mounted an aggressive counternarrative, arguing that the relationships in question were consensual and that the accusations are part of a coordinated effort to destroy Diddy's reputation. They've pointed to inconsistencies in accusers' testimonies and questioned their motives, suggesting financial incentives and personal grudges may be at play. This is about money, not justice, a legal expert close to the case reportedly said, echoing the defense's assertion that Diddy is being unfairly targeted. But is this really opportunism or a long overdue reckoning?
Fortunately, we're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, it's the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual about whom I wish to hear nothing after this trial is done.
The trial has also shown a light on Diddy's business empire, which prosecutors allege was used as a front for his alleged criminal activities. Bad Boy Records, once a powerhouse in the music industry, has been described in court as a criminal enterprise that enabled and concealed his behavior. Federal agents reportedly uncovered a trove of evidence during raids on Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami, including surveillance footage, financial records, and over 1,000 bottles of personal lubricant allegedly used during the freak-offs. These raids have raised questions about who else in Diddy's inner circle may have been complicit. Were his employees aware of what was happening? Did they help facilitate his alleged crimes? Or were they victims themselves, silenced by the same fear and intimidation? And yet, even as the walls close in, Diddy's family remains steadfast in their support. His sons, Quincy and Justin, have been a constant presence in the courtroom, their expressions a mix of resolve and vulnerability. Their loyalty has sparked both sympathy and criticism, with some applauding their devotion and others questioning whether they're enabling their father's alleged behavior. The family dynamic is further complicated by behind-the-scenes tensions, with some relatives reportedly urging Diddy to take a plea deal to spare them further public humiliation. But Diddy has refused, insisting on his innocence and vowing to clear his name.
The question is he a criminal? You know, is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated.
The public, meanwhile, remains deeply divided. Supporters argue that this trial is a witch hunt, an attempt to tear down a successful Black man who dared to challenge the status quo. They point to his philanthropic efforts, his influence on the music industry, and his role as a father and mentor as proof that he couldn't possibly be the monster he's being portrayed as. But critics are quick to counter that this isn't about cancel culture. This is about justice finally catching up with a man who's hidden behind wealth and fame for far too long. Social media has become a battleground. Hashtags and viral threads dissect every development, every rumor, every piece of evidence. And then, of course, there are the conspiracy theories. Some speculate that Diddy's downfall is part of a larger plot, perhaps orchestrated by rivals in the industry or shadowy figures in law enforcement. Others suggest the missing witness may have been silenced, either through intimidation or financial coercion. While unsubstantiated, these theories have only added to the intrigue. They raise uncomfortable questions about the nature of power, the limits of accountability, and the lengths to which people will go to protect their secrets. As the trial enters its next phase, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted, Diddy faces the possibility of life in prison, a dramatic fall from grace for a man who once seemed untouchable. But even if he's acquitted, the damage to his reputation may be irreparable. The music industry, too, will be forced to reckon with its complicity, its culture of silence, its failure to protect the vulnerable. This trial is more than just a legal battle. It's a cultural moment, a test of whether justice can prevail in the face of money, power, and influence. So, where does this leave us? Will the missing witness reappear, bringing with her the testimony that could tip the scales? Will the jury believe the accusers? Or will they be swayed by the defense's narrative of consent and conspiracy? And what about Diddy's sons? Will their loyalty endure, or will the weight of the allegations become too much to bear? These are the questions that hang over this trial, questions that will continue to captivate and divide us as the drama unfolds. Stay tuned for the next chapter in this extraordinary saga. This story is far from over.